At my daughter's engagement dinner, her fiancé leaned across my dining table and whispered, "Transfer $200,000 to my account by Monday, or I'll tell everyone you're mentally unfit to be around your grandchildren." I smiled, reached into my cardigan pocket, and placed a small recording device on the table between us. He went pale. That night ended with police cars in my driveway and my daughter screaming that I'd ruined her life. But I hadn't. I'd saved it. The spring rain drummed against my kitchen windows that Tuesday afternoon when Sarah called. I was organizing my medication cabinet, sorting pills into their weekly containers, when her voice came through the speaker bright with excitement I hadn't heard in years. "Mom, are you home? I need to talk to you about something important." My daughter rarely called during school hours. She taught 4th grade at Lincoln Elementary, loved those kids more than anything. For her to call at 2:30 meant something significant had happened. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's perfect." Her words tumbled out breathless. "I met someone. His name is Marcus. He's incredible, Mom. We've been seeing each other for 4 months, and he proposed last night." 4 months. My hands stilled on the pill bottles. Sarah had dated sporadically since her divorce 3 years ago. Nothing serious, now engaged after 16 weeks. "That's wonderful, honey. I'm so happy for you." The words came automatically while my mind raced. "Tell me about him." "He's a financial advisor, brilliant with investments. He's been helping me understand my retirement accounts, reorganize my finances, and he's so kind, Mom. Patient. Nothing like David." Her ex-husband's name still carried bitterness. David had been controlling, dismissive. The divorce had devastated Sarah, left her questioning her judgment. "I'd love to meet him properly. Why don't you both come for dinner Friday?" After she hung up, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the rain. 4 months felt rushed, but Sarah was 33, old enough to make her own decisions. I wanted to trust her judgment. I wanted her to be happy. That evening, I called my sister Patricia in Connecticut. She listened while I voiced my concerns. "Margaret, you're borrowing trouble. Let Sarah live her life. You can't protect her from everything." Patricia was probably right. I'd been overprotective since Sarah's father died 10 years ago. Heart attack at 58, sudden and brutal. Life insurance had left me comfortable, financially secure, but it had also made me cautious, suspicious of people's motivations around money. Friday evening arrived too quickly. I'd prepared Sarah's favorite meal, roasted chicken with herb potatoes, set the dining table with the good china my mother had given me, fresh flowers from the garden. Everything perfect for meeting my future son-in-law. They arrived at 6:30. Sarah came through the door glowing, her hand tucked into the arm of a man who moved with practiced confidence. Marcus Sterling was handsome, tall with silver threading through dark hair, expensive suit, perfect smile, firm handshake. "Mrs. Walsh, it's wonderful to finally meet you. Sarah speaks about you constantly." His eyes swept the living room with an appraising quality I recognized from my years as a nurse. That professional assessment of surroundings, cataloging details. But his felt different, calculating. Dinner started pleasantly. Marcus asked intelligent questions about my nursing career, seemed genuinely interested in my stories from 40 years at Massachusetts General. He complimented the meal, the house, made Sarah laugh with stories about his work with wealthy clients in Boston. Then the conversation shifted. "This is a beautiful home, Mrs. Walsh. Have you considered what you'll do as you get older? These large houses become difficult to maintain." "I'm managing fine. The yard service handles most of the outdoor work." "Of course." He sipped his wine thoughtfully. "Sarah mentioned you're alone here. That must be challenging. Have you thought about downsizing? Moving somewhere with less upkeep?" Sarah jumped in. "Marcus has been so helpful with my finances, Mom. He's brilliant at long-term planning. Maybe he could look at your investments, make sure everything's optimized for retirement." Something in her tone felt rehearsed, like they'd discussed this before arriving. "I appreciate the offer, but my financial advisor has everything handled." Marcus smiled. unbothered by the deflection. Of course, though if you ever want a second opinion, I'm happy to help. Families shouldn't pay for advice. The rest of dinner followed similar patterns. He'd compliment something, then question my ability to maintain it, praised my independence, then suggested I might need support. Every statement had two edges. After they left, I stood at my sink washing dishes by hand, replaying the evening. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe Marcus was genuinely concerned. But my instincts, honed through decades of reading patients and their families, were screaming warnings. Saturday morning, I did something I'm not proud of. I searched Marcus Sterling online. His LinkedIn profile looked impressive. Senior financial advisor at Sterling Investment Solutions. Testimonials from satisfied clients. Photos at charity events. Always impeccably dressed. Everything seemed legitimate. I scrolled deeper. Found a news article from 2 years ago. Local financial advisor faces fraud allegations. The photo showed Marcus, younger, leaving a courthouse. The charges had been dropped, insufficient evidence, but the article mentioned 3 elderly clients who'd lost significant investments. I screenshot everything, hands shaking. Monday afternoon, I called a private investigator. Richard Chen had helped a friend verify her son's fiancé years ago. Discreet, professional, expensive. His report arrived Thursday via encrypted email. I read it twice, feeling cold spread through my chest. Marcus Sterling, real name Marcus Brennan, changed his name legally 6 years ago after settlements with 4 different women, pattern consistent. Targets recently divorced or widowed women aged 30 to 50 with assets over $500,000. Average relationship duration, 6 months. Average extraction, $150,000 to $300,000. Current investigation in Vermont for similar activities. The report included bank statements showing Marcus was $72,000 in debt. Credit cards maxed. 2 active collection lawsuits. He'd declared bankruptcy 3 years ago, never completed the process. I called Sarah immediately. We need to talk about Marcus. I had someone look into his background. The explosion was instantaneous. You what? You hired someone to investigate my fiancé? Sarah, listen to me. His real name is Marcus Brennan. He's done this before, multiple times. There's documentation, police reports. Her voice turned cold. I can't believe you. You've never approved of anyone I've dated. You did this to David too, constantly questioning him, making him feel inadequate. That was different. David was controlling you. And now you're trying to control me. Her words cut like surgical instruments. Marcus warned me you might do something like this. He said you'd try to sabotage us because you can't handle me being happy without depending on you. The accusation landed like a physical blow. Sweetheart, please just look at the evidence. Don't call me again until you're ready to apologize and accept my choices. I'm 33 years old, Mom. I don't need your permission to live my life. The line went dead. I sat in my study, staring at the private investigator's report spread across my desk. Everything I'd feared was documented here, but Sarah wouldn't look at it. Marcus had prepared her perfectly, planted seeds of doubt about my motives. That evening, Marcus called from Sarah's phone. Mrs. Walsh, Sarah told me about the investigation. I understand your concern, truly. You're protective of your daughter, but I love her. Everything in my past has an explanation. Those charges were baseless, filed by bitter ex-clients. I'd be happy to sit down and address every concern you have. His voice was smooth, reasonable, the tone of someone offering olive branches while tightening the noose. 2 weeks passed with no word from Sarah. I sent texts, emails, left voicemails. All went unanswered. I drove past her apartment twice, saw Marcus's black Mercedes in the parking lot both times. Patricia called to lecture me about boundaries. Even my close friend Helen suggested I might be overreacting. Everyone thought I was the problem, the controlling mother who couldn't let go. The private investigator called with updates. Marcus had convinced Sarah to add him to her checking account. She'd withdrawn $15,000 from her savings, reason listed as investment opportunity. Her credit card showed charges at jewelry stores, expensive restaurants, weekend trips to Martha's Vineyard. Saturday evening, an envelope arrived by courier. Heavy cardstock, elegant calligraphy. Engagement celebration dinner at the Hawthorne Club, Boston's most exclusive venue. Date, 3 weeks away, 200 guests. I researched the venue costs. Minimum $20,000 for the space alone. Sarah's teacher salary couldn't cover this. She'd have to drain her savings, maybe touch her retirement accounts. The next morning, a certified letter arrived. Legal documents requesting I establish a trust fund for future grandchildren's education. The letter, signed by Marcus's attorney, suggested $200,000 as an appropriate starting amount. My hands trembled, reading it. This wasn't a request. It was a demand, wrapped in legal language and false concern for grandchildren who didn't exist. I called Richard immediately. We need to find his previous victims. I need testimony, evidence, proof that will make Sarah listen. He worked fast. By Thursday, I had contact information for 3 women: Lisa Henderson in Vermont, Jennifer Park in Rhode Island, Catherine Morrison in Maine. Each had lost between $100,000 and $270,000 to Marcus. I called Lisa first. Her voice was wary, scarred by past trauma. He told me he loved me, that we'd build a life together. She spoke slowly, carefully. He needed capital for a business opportunity. Just temporary. He'd repay everything with interest. 3 months later, he was gone, changed his number, moved. I never saw him or my money again. Will you testify? Go on record about what he did? Long silence. Finally, Mrs. Walsh, I reported him to police 3 years ago. They said it was a civil matter, not criminal. I sued him. He declared bankruptcy. I got nothing. Testifying will just reopen wounds. My daughter is next, please. I need her to hear from someone he's done this to before. Her voice softened. I'll help, but you should know, it probably won't matter. When I was with him, people warned me too. I didn't listen. We never do when we're in deep. Over the next week, I spoke with all 3 women. Each told the same story with minor variations. Marcus would integrate himself into their lives, gain their trust, identify their assets, create urgencies requiring money, then disappear once he'd extracted what he could. Jennifer Park provided the most chilling detail. He researched me before we met, knew my divorce settlement amount, my inheritance from my father, everything. It wasn't chance. It was premeditated. I compiled everything into a folder: financial records, legal documents, witness statements, the private investigator's report, 27 pages of evidence that Marcus was a professional con artist. Sarah agreed to meet me for coffee. Neutral ground, public place. She looked exhausted when she arrived, dark circles under her eyes. I slid the folder across the table. Please just look at this. That's all I'm asking. She didn't touch it. Mom, Marcus already explained everything. Those women are lying because their investments didn't work out. He lost money too. He's not responsible for market fluctuations. Her words had Marcus's fingerprints all over them. Every excuse, every deflection, he'd prepared her for this moment. Sarah, these aren't investment losses. These are deliberate thefts. He has a pattern spanning 6 years. You're so desperate to be right that you've created an entire conspiracy. Her voice rose slightly. Do you know what Marcus told me? That you're showing early signs of cognitive decline. That your paranoia, your obsessive behavior, these are warning signs. The accusation was so unexpected, so vicious, I couldn't form words. He suggested I encourage you to see a neurologist. That maybe you shouldn't be living alone, making major decisions. I felt the room tilt. Marcus wasn't just isolating Sarah financially. He was laying groundwork to discredit me completely, making it seem like my concerns were symptoms of dementia. I am not cognitively impaired. I had my annual physical 2 months ago. I'm healthy. Sarah's expression showed pity mixed with frustration. That's exactly what someone with early dementia would say. She stood. I love you, Mom, but you need help. Until you get it, I can't have you involved in my life. You're becoming a danger to yourself. She left the folder untouched on the table. I drove home in a fog. Marcus had played this perfectly. He'd turned my attempts to protect Sarah into evidence of my unfitness. Anything I said now would sound like confused rambling from a declining mind. That night, I made a decision. If Sarah wouldn't listen to me, I'd have to make her see for herself, and I'd need help. James Brennan contacted me, Marcus's ex-business partner. Richard had found him during the investigation, listed as a witness in one of the civil suits. We met at a diner in Cambridge. James was 53, tired eyes, careful movements of someone who'd been burned badly. Marcus and I were partners 8 years ago, investment firm in Providence. He spoke quietly. I thought we were legitimate. Turns out he was running a Ponzi scheme on the side, using our firm's reputation to gain trust. When it collapsed, I lost everything. My house, my marriage, my license to practice. He walked away clean, reinvented himself in Boston. Why wasn't he prosecuted? He was smart, structured everything so I took the legal liability. He was never officially an owner, just a consultant. James's hands clenched around his coffee cup. I've spent 8 years rebuilding. When your investigator called saying Marcus was doing it again, I knew I had to help. Over the next 2 weeks, James and I became unlikely allies. He provided documentation of Marcus's previous schemes, connections to other victims, pattern analysis. We spent hours at my dining table, building an airtight case. Somewhere in those long evenings of shared purpose, something else developed. Recognition of kindred damage. Comfort in mutual understanding. James would stay late. We'd talk about losses we'd endured, ways we'd survived. Nothing romantic, but something warming the empty spaces. The engagement party approached. Sarah hadn't invited me, but the venue was semi-public. I could attend. James suggested a different approach. Don't confront him publicly. He'll spin it as your mental decline. We need him to confess, on record, with witnesses. How? Give him what he wants. Pretend you're conceding. Tell him you'll transfer the money. Get him comfortable, overconfident. Then let him hang himself. The plan formed over days of careful preparation. I'd invite Marcus to my home, offer to write the check for the trust fund. James would be hidden in my study with recording equipment. Massachusetts was a 2-party consent state for recordings, but we'd use the evidence to convince Sarah, not for court. I called Marcus directly. His voice was warm, victorious. Mrs. Walsh, I'm so glad you called. Sarah's been worried about you. I've been thinking about the trust fund. You're right. Future grandchildren deserve security. Can you come by Tuesday evening? I'd like to discuss the details. Of course. I'll come alone, let us talk frankly. Does 7 work? Perfect. Tuesday arrived with thunderstorms rolling across Boston. I'd spent the day preparing, rehearsing my role. James arrived at 6, set up recording equipment in the study with the door slightly ajar. Audio and video, multiple angles. Marcus arrived exactly at 7, impeccable as always, carrying a folder of his own. He accepted tea, settled into my living room sofa with practiced ease. Mrs. Walsh, I appreciate you reconsidering. This is what's best for everyone. I've been thinking about what Sarah said, about my judgment perhaps not being what it was. Maybe I was too harsh. His smile widened slightly. It's natural to become more cautious as we age, nothing to be ashamed of. That's why it's important to have family who can help guide decisions. The condescension in his voice was barely veiled. The trust fund, 200,000, you said? That's the suggested amount, yes. Though honestly, given your assets, you could be more generous. Sarah showed me your financial statements. You're sitting on over 800,000 in investments plus this house. Being more generous now saves estate taxes later. My blood ran cold. Sarah had shown him my complete financial picture. He continued, warming to his pitch. In fact, I've been analyzing your portfolio. You're too conservatively invested. I could move things around, generate much better returns. If you gave me power of attorney, just temporarily, I could optimize everything. There it was, the real goal. Not just 200,000, full access to everything I had. That's very generous of you to offer. I kept my voice steady, but I'm curious about something. Sarah mentioned you've helped other clients this way. How has that worked out? His expression flickered briefly. Uncertainty. Then the smile returned. All my clients are very satisfied. I have a proven track record. What about Lisa Henderson? Jennifer Park? Catherine Morrison? The smile froze. I watched him calculate, decide on his approach. Ah, those women. His voice turned regretful. Unfortunate situations. They made poor investment decisions despite my advice, then blamed me when markets shifted. It's why I'm careful now about documenting everything. So you didn't take 150,000 from Lisa and disappear? Mrs. Walsh, I think your memory might be confused. He leaned forward, voice gentle and patronizing. This is exactly the kind of paranoid thinking Sarah mentioned. Confusing details, making accusations that don't align with reality. Perhaps we should schedule that neurologist appointment together. I'm not confused, Marcus. Or should I call you Marcus Brennan? His expression hardened, pleasantness evaporating. Here's what's going to happen. He abandoned pretense entirely. You're going to transfer $200,000 to my account by Monday, and you're going to do it quietly, without drama. Or I'll have Sarah get a medical evaluation showing you're mentally incompetent. I'll make sure she gets conservatorship of your assets. Every penny you have will be under her control, which means my control. And if I refuse, then I'll tell everyone you're delusional, dangerous, possibly abusive. I've already planted seeds about your cognitive decline. Sarah believes me. Her friends believe me. I'll paint you as an unfit grandmother, someone who shouldn't be around future children. You'll lose your daughter completely. His voice was cold, mechanical. This was who he really was. No charm, no warmth, just calculation. I've done this before, Mrs. Walsh. I'm very good at it. You're not the first wealthy widow who thought she was smarter than me. They all learned eventually. I reached into my cardigan pocket and placed the small recording device on the coffee table between us. Its red light blinked steadily. Marcus went absolutely still, staring at the device like it was a coiled snake. That's illegal. You can't record me without permission. You're right, this recording can't be used in court. But it can be played for Sarah, for the police investigating the Vermont fraud case, for the victims who never got justice, for every person you've manipulated. His face cycled through emotions. Shock, fury, calculation. Then he lunged for the device. James stepped from the study, large and blocking. I wouldn't do that. Marcus spun, recognized James, went pale. Hello, Marcus. Been a while. The front door burst open. Sarah stood there, rain-soaked, eyes wild. Mom, I just got a weird text saying to come here immediately, that something happened to you. She saw Marcus, then James, then me holding the recording device. Confusion flooded her features. What's going on? I played the recording. Marcus's voice filled my living room. Every threat, every admission, every cold calculation laid bare. Sarah listened, her face draining of color. When it finished, silence pressed down like physical weight. Marcus moved first, tried his charm one last time. Sarah, sweetheart, she manipulated this whole situation. She's sick, confused. This is exactly what I warned you about. But Sarah was looking at me differently now, really seeing me. Mom, that text. You sent it. You knew I'd come if I thought you were in danger. I nodded. I needed you to hear it directly. From him, not from me. Marcus tried again. Sarah, please. I love you. This is all a misunderstanding. She cut him off, voice shaking. How much of my money is already gone? His silence was answer enough. Get out. The words came out quiet, lethal. Get out of my mother's house. Get out of my life. Marcus's mask shattered completely. Fine. You're not worth the effort anyway. Too much work for too little payoff. Your mother's got real money. You were just the entry point. He left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle windows. Sarah stood motionless, shock turning to realization, then to devastation. I sold my savings bonds, withdrew $22,000 from retirement accounts, charged $15,000 on credit cards. All for investments, he said, were guaranteed returns. She collapsed into my armchair, sobbing. I'm so stupid. You tried to warn me, and I called you crazy. I believed him over you. I knelt beside her chair, took her hands. You're not stupid. He's a professional. He's done this to dozens of people. James spoke gently from across the room. I fell for it too, Sarah. For years. These people are experts at manipulation. The next morning, Sarah and I went to the police, filed reports with both Boston PD and the detective handling the Vermont case. The recording couldn't be used directly, but it gave them direction for their investigation. Combined with testimony from previous victims and James's documentation, they had enough to move forward. Marcus was arrested 2 weeks later. Wire fraud, identity theft, financial exploitation of vulnerable individuals, federal charges, serious consequences. The months that followed were difficult. Sarah went to therapy, processed the trauma, rebuilt her finances. I helped where she'd let me, learning when to offer support and when to step back. James and I continued meeting. Coffee became dinners. Dinners became long walks discussing books and travel and second chances. Nothing rushed. Just two people who'd survived similar storms, finding unexpected shelter in each other. 6 months after Marcus's arrest, Sarah invited us both to dinner at her apartment. She'd repainted, rearranged furniture, created a space that felt entirely hers. Over dessert, she raised her glass. To Mom, who refused to give up even when I pushed her away. Who was brave enough to be hated if it meant keeping me safe? I'm sorry I didn't trust you. I squeezed her hand across the table. You don't need to apologize. You were trying to build a life independent of me. That's healthy. I just wish your teacher hadn't been a con artist. James added quietly. The people who manipulate us count on isolation. They know if they can turn us against the people who care most, we're vulnerable. Your mother refused to be isolated from you, even when it cost her relationship with you. Sarah looked between us. So, are you two going to talk about what's happening here, or do I need to ask? James and I exchanged glances. We were taking things slowly, but Sarah smiled. Good. You both deserve happiness. And Mom, he's way better than Marcus. We laughed, tension breaking. Marcus pleaded guilty eventually. Faced with overwhelming evidence from multiple victims, he took a deal. 8 years federal prison, restitution to victims, lifetime ban from financial services. The day of sentencing, I sat in the courtroom gallery with Sarah on one side and James on the other. Watched Marcus in prison orange, diminished and ordinary without his expensive suits and practiced charm. The judge's words echoed through the courtroom. You targeted vulnerable people systematically, exploiting their desire for love and security. You've devastated lives across multiple states. These crimes strike at basic human trust. As they led Marcus away, he looked back once. Our eyes met across the courtroom. I didn't look away. That evening, James and I walked through Boston Common. Spring had returned, flowers blooming along pathways. Do you feel vindicated? He asked. I thought about it. Not vindicated. Relieved. Sarah's safe. Other people are safe. That's what matters. He took my hand. You know, what you did was extraordinary. Most parents would have given up when their child rejected them. I couldn't give up. She's my daughter. We walked in comfortable silence, two people who'd lost much but found something unexpected in the wreckage. Sarah called as we reached the park's edge, her voice bright. "Mom, guess what? I submitted my loan forgiveness application. With Marcus's restitution and my repayment plan, I'll have everything cleared in 3 years." "That's wonderful, sweetheart." "And Mom? I'm dating someone new, taking it very slow. But I wanted you to know, and yes, you can meet him, eventually, when I'm ready." I smiled. "Whenever you're ready, no rush." After we hung up, James asked, "How's she really doing?" "Better, slowly. She's learning to trust herself again. That's the hardest part after someone manipulates you, rebuilding faith in your own judgment. You sound like you know that personally. I lost my husband young, spent years doubting every decision, wondering if I was doing right by Sarah. Probably overcompensated, became too protective." The voice trailed off. "This whole situation taught me that loving someone means trusting them to make mistakes, but being there to help when those mistakes become dangerous." James nodded thoughtfully. "I've been meaning to ask. What made you so certain about Marcus from the start? What was the tell?" I considered. The way he looked at my house that first dinner. He wasn't seeing a home where his future grandmother-in-law lived. He was calculating value. It's the same look I'd see sometimes on families of dying patients, evaluating estates instead of grieving loved ones. You learn to recognize it. We reached my car. James opened the door but didn't step back. "Margaret, I know we've been taking this slowly, and that's right, given everything we've both been through. But I want you to know I see a future here. When you're ready, no rush, no pressure." I touched his face gently. "I see it too." That night, lying in bed, I thought about everything that had changed. 6 months ago, I'd been standing in my kitchen, terrified I was losing my daughter. Now Sarah was rebuilding, Marcus was in prison, and I'd found someone who understood survival. The revenge wasn't destroying Marcus, though his prison sentence satisfied something in me. The real victory was this: Sarah learning to trust herself again. James and I building something from our shared wreckage. A family reassembled, different than before but stronger in the broken places. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I was awful. Love you, Mom." I replied simply, "Always. That's what mothers do." Outside, spring rain pattered against windows. I thought about all the times I'd wanted to stop fighting, to let Sarah make her choices and bear her consequences. But something deeper than logic had kept me going. Not control, not inability to let go. Love. Pure, stubborn, relentless love that refused to watch someone I cherished walk into danger. The recording device sat on my nightstand. Small, ordinary. It had been the key that unlocked everything. But the real tool had been patience. The willingness to be hated, to be called crazy, to be pushed away, all while continuing to build evidence and wait for the moment when truth could finally be heard. 3 months later, Sarah brought her new boyfriend to Sunday dinner. His name was Daniel, a history teacher at her school. Quiet, genuine, with none of Marcus's polished performance. I watched them together carefully. Saw the way he listened when she spoke, how he deferred to her choices, the absence of calculation in his eyes. Saw Sarah relaxed, herself, not performing or trying to prove anything. After dinner, while Sarah and Daniel played cards with James, Sarah caught my eye and smiled. A whole conversation in that look. "I'm okay. I'm careful. But I'm trying again." I smiled back, proud of her courage, grateful she'd survived, hopeful for her future. James squeezed my hand under the table. "Look at what you saved." "No," I squeezed back. "Look at what she saved. Her own life, her own future. I just bought her time to see clearly." But we both knew that sometimes buying time was everything. In those desperate months when Sarah couldn't see the danger, when Marcus had her convinced I was the problem, That time had been the difference between safety and devastation. The evening ended with hugs and promises to do this again soon. As Sarah and Daniel drove away, she called from the car window, "Love you, Mom. Thanks for being my mom." 5 words that meant forgiveness, understanding, gratitude. James and I stood on my front steps, watching taillights disappear down the street. "You did good, Margaret." "We did good. Couldn't have done it without you." He kissed my forehead gently. Team effort. Inside, I cleared the dinner table slowly, washing dishes by hand, though the dishwasher would have been easier. My hands moved through familiar routine, while my mind settled into contentment. This was the revenge story no one expected. No dramatic confrontation, no public humiliation, though those had played their parts. The real revenge was this: building a life after the villain's defeat, finding love in unexpected places, watching my daughter reclaim herself, and knowing that the next time someone tried to manipulate someone I loved, I'd recognize the signs faster, fight smarter, protect harder, because that's what we do when we love someone. We become warriors, even when they can't see the enemy, especially then. The recording device sat in my desk drawer now, small reminder of the night everything changed. Sometimes I'd take it out, turn it over in my hands, remember Marcus's face when he realized he'd been caught. But mostly I looked forward, to Sunday dinners with Sarah and Daniel, to quiet evenings with James, to the garden I was planning for summer, to a future built on truth instead of manipulation. Marcus had tried to isolate me from my daughter, paint me as unstable, steal everything I'd built. Instead, he'd given me clarity about what mattered most: family, truth, the courage to be hated by someone you love if it means keeping them safe. That night, as rain drummed against windows again, I sat at my kitchen table with tea and thought about the journey. From that first suspicious dinner to tonight's peaceful gathering. From Sarah's rejection to her forgiveness. From isolation to James's companionship. The price had been high. Months of pain, damaged relationships, Sarah's savings depleted. But we'd survived. Stronger than before. Wiser. More careful. But still open to love and trust and hope. That was the ultimate revenge against people like Marcus. They counted on breaking us. Instead, we bent but didn't shatter, found each other in the aftermath, built something better from the ruins. My phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. "That was nice tonight. Daniel wants to know if we can do it again next week." I replied, "Anytime, sweetheart. Doors always open." 3 words from her. "I know, Mom." And in those 3 words, everything we'd fought for. Trust restored. Love reaffirmed. Future secured. I turned off the kitchen light and climbed the stairs to bed. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. But tonight, I'd rest, knowing my daughter was safe, my family was whole, and love had won. That was the revenge that mattered. Not destroying the villain, saving what he tried to take, living well despite his attempts to ruin us, moving forward, together, into whatever came next. And it was sweet.